Hey there guys, so today we're going to be carving one of these guys, and this is Balthazar, one of the Three Kings of the Three Kings stencil set. So this is one of my most requested stencils that I created, and I'm happy to have completed it and be sharing it with you guys. So we have Balthazar, Gaspar, and Melchior. So they're all very similar, but they all have some unique characteristics. So let's get to carving. This guy is carved out of 1.5 inches, and the cool thing about it is that it can also be made out of a 1-inch piece. Could also be made out of a 2-inch block. So the differences are pretty stark right there. This one's very easy and very quick to make. This one's not as quick, but still very easy. And this one's, you know, still easy, but it's not as quick to do. Great addition to the Nativity set. So let's go ahead and start carving this guy. Alright, so to start on this, obviously you cut your block to length and you can use your stencil as reference. So I like to put it upside down, like this, on whatever block it is I'm using, line up the bottom, and then just strike a line on the top. So you can go like that and cut it at that point. I cut it a little bit crooked, but that's fine. We're gonna cut it, we're gonna be able to carve that off. Anyway, just use this lip right here to set your stencil against the edge there, and just trace everything you can see. And if you mess up, you can always come back and fix it. Now just line up the stencil on the other side to the bottom and trace again. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then the only other stencil that you'll need is this face stencil, and they come in 3 different sizes, the small, medium, and large. So make sure that you have the medium one handy, or you don't need it. You know, you obviously don't need a stencil for any of this. If you are confident in your drawing, go for it. But I like to use that guy, and that's the same one that you use for the Mary and Joseph. So there's a lot of overlap. Okay, let's go and get started on carving. Alright guys, you know me, I always wear gloves, so a cut resistant glove and some other glove that allows me to grip the knife more securely in the other hand. Okay, so first thing I do is I like to establish the perimeter, kind of the outside profile of this guy. So all I'm doing is cutting from this line to the back, completely perpendicular to that. So and my knife is extra sharp now. I just got a new set of sharpening stones. Well, just one, I guess. A DMT diamond stone, and my golly, I don't think I've ever been able to get a knife as sharp as I got it with that thing. However, there is kind of a magic to that. It's not just having at it. There's a lot of videos out there on sharpening, so I don't think I'm gonna necessarily add to that population. But there is something to be said about being able to properly sharpen your knives. Okay, looks pretty good right there. And if you're wondering what type of wood this is just regular basswood. I get my basswood from Heineck. It's been consistently good, very good quality, not tight grained or anything like that. It's very easy to carve. So it's kind of surprising how many people have asked me what type of wood I'm using to carve, and yeah, I thought everybody kind of knew that basswood was the thing to carve. It's not balsa wood, it's basswood. I'm pretty sure that they are different species, but I could be wrong. Okay. Alright, so one thing that I am going to do is, see this guy, we're going to end up removing all this section right here. So I like to just go ahead and mark out the diameter of that ball up here. Okay. You can see I need to remove a little bit more right here. Anyway. Okay, so let's get to the meat of it. So first cut that I'm going to do over here is on this line right here. And just a rocking cut, kind of stop it right there. And I'm going to essentially take off all the material between these two lines. There you see, taking off all that material right there. If you take off too much, that's okay. Not a big deal. Alright. Now with my pencil, I'm going to go ahead and draw that line of that hat all the way across. And try to keep it horizontal. Okay, like that. So now, let's go ahead and draw the face. So I put some poster putty on here, and I just center it, that section right there, and kind of align the top to that line I just drew. Okay, now I have this guy where I can kind of keep it in place. And all I'm going to do is, with my pencil, I'm going to draw around their perimeter. It's a little bit crooked. So let's see if we can fix that a little bit. That poster putty is not sticking today. Maybe it's a little bit old. I need to go steal some more from my daughter. Okay. Well, you know what? We'll just fix it once we start carving it. Okay, so all I'm going to do is take my knife and I'm going to score that line. Then I'm going to start to recess that face in there. Now let's just remove that material on the inside. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Okay, so let's switch over to the body. And I'm going to switch over to a V-tool, and I'm just going to trace most of these lines. So right here, start with the outside one. I like to stay just on the outside of it. There we go. Alright, let's do the interior one. So up here, I'm going to do this cut very lightly. And then once I get past the bottle and the hands, then I can go ahead and go a little bit deeper. And once again, staying on the inside of it, because if I diminish the amount of material on that robe, I can't get it back. So same thing on this side right here. So very lightly, next to the hands. Now, a little bit deeper over here. Okay, great. Okay, and then the material in between these two lines, I'm going to go ahead and remove. And that's the case for all three of these stencils. Okay, like that. And just take them all down. Excellent. Okay, so now that we have those V-cuts in there, I'm going to go ahead and take the tip of my knife and score that material right there. If you wanted to, you could probably leave it like that and be perfectly fine, but I like to give it a little bit more depth. Okay, I'm going to do this guy right here. Excellent. And this guy right here. Now we're just going to start to remove that material. And then the same thing over here. And this one I'm starting just below the bottle. Hopefully that's what I did on that side. Yeah, start just below the bottle, because we're going to come in and define that bottle right here. And we'll also outline the hands. So let's go back to our V-tool and get that part done. So what I like to do is come over here to the hands and run the V-tool just on the outside of them, very lightly, not super deep. Just enough so that you can see where the hands are. Be careful when that grain changes direction that the tool wants to sink in a little bit more. So let's see if we can get this guy not as deep as that one. Okay, I think that's good. Alright, so we worked on that side right there, right there. Okay, let's work on the top of the bottle as well. So, right here, and just define the top of that bottle. Okay. Now we're going to remove all the material kind of around that robe and really give it some character. Some depth, I mean. And we're going to essentially take down this part to that face right here. Okay. Looks good. Okay, now we're going to remove this material right here. So this is a little tricky. If you have one of those carving blocks, that helps out tremendously in bracing your work. But right here, make sure that you're just pulling with your thumb. If you haven't seen Dello's new carving tutorial on carving techniques, your thumb should be the one doing most of the carving. Because that means that that's as far as your knife can travel if it slips. I'm just terrified, guys, of slipping a knife. It's just absolutely have nightmares about it. And with all the videos and photos of people slipping a knife on Facebook, ugh, that is not something I want to go through. Hence why I wear gloves for this sort of thing. Okay, let's do this one a little bit deeper. You see, bracing this guy is probably the hardest one. And for that, you could probably use a gouge and get in there, but anyway, don't have my gouge right here with me right now, so that's not what we're using. Probably like a number 3 would probably be the best right there. Like a 3/8 of an inch or even 1/2 inch would be good. Okay. That was good. Excellent. And you see, we just created so much more depth by just running our knife along there. So at some point we got to get in here and kind of remove all this original processing. So all that fuzzy wood that you see on there, you need to make sure that you touch it up with a knife at some point. Okay, so let's do this bottle now. So right here. So we want to move the robe back enough and round out the bottle. So we need to give ourselves a little bit of space. Okay, now we're going to round out the top of that robe right here. Just like that. Okay, and then to use little squares right here, or rectangles or whatever you want to call them, we got to take those out. Right here, like that. Okay, same thing on the other side. Excellent. Now let's take off this really sharp edge at the front. There we go. This grain is tricky right here. If I do too much in one direction, it will just splinter. Okay, so that's good right there. Now I'm going to give it a little bit of a bottle lid. So like this. You could probably come in with your V-tool and do this part, but there we go. And round out the top of that bottle as well. Like that. And guys, these are very simple carvings. Like, you know, you could add as much detail as you want. Especially like on the incense for gas bar that I have, I tried to add a small amount of detail on there. You know, make these whatever you want. Some guys really go crazy with these and make it much more realistic. I think the lack of facial features is very, I don't know, it's a cool style, and lets you get away with making a recognizable character without giving away that you can't do facial features. Because that was kind of my reasoning for making these, is that when you get me out of my comfort zone of making Santa faces, I'm like, what do I do? But anyway. Alright, so the grain direction there is a little tricky, so I think I'm not going to mess with that anymore. Just trying to round out the interior and the exterior of the robe so it's not as square. But I think that's good right like that. Okay, one thing I am going to do is I'm going to tuck in the bottle a little bit and the hands so that they look like they're coming out from underneath the robe. Okay, like that. There we go. And then just take a sliver off the robe right there. Like that. And take that sliver off right here. Perfect. There we go. Defining the hands just a little bit more. Right, okay. And just going to round out the bottom of the bottle as well. Because you want it to be square, but you don't want it to be overly square. Okay, now let's work on this stuff up here. Now I'm going to go back to the V-tool, and I'm going to trace out these lines that I have left over here. So 1 and 2. And 1 and 2. Okay, excellent. Now, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and score those. We're going to start working on defining that head rag. Okay, and then undercut that a little bit, and same thing on the other side. Okay, now just take your knife from here, come down, and take out that sliver right here. It should come out. Okay, from here, down. This one is nice because there's a lot of space in here to put your knife into. The Mary and Joseph are a little bit trickier if you have a big knife like I do. You gotta kind of switch to a detail knife or something a little bit thinner. But anyway, this one worked out nicely. Okay. Like that. Now we're probably gonna have to move the face back a little bit because, okay, let's get to this next part. So we're gonna start to separate that puffy hat from the rest of the face. Okay. like this. So now we're gonna start to tuck this up. And watch out, don't push too hard, because if you do, you might splinter that wood up there. There's not much material there, so pay very close attention to how much pressure you're exerting with your thumb over here. Okay. Excellent. Okay, yeah, and you can see that we have to change the face a little bit. But before that, we're gonna get this guy right here, and we're gonna take him down. Okay. Right, and let's tuck that face in a little bit more. Alright, so let's recess that face right here. Okay, now I'm going to try to chamfer that like this. There we go. It's looking a little bit better. I think I'm having issues on this side because the grain is doing some funny things there. Okay, there we go. Okay, so let's take off this corner right here. Same on that side. There we go. Alright, so up here we're going to start to work on that top of that hat. So you remember we had that drawing up there, but we got to recess it a little bit. So it's not, that ball is not going to be exactly at the front of it, it's going to be kind of pushed back a little bit. So you got to remove some of that material. And in this case, when you're cutting into the end grain, you don't necessarily want to go straight down into the end grain, because that'll cause it to split probably further than you want it. So kind of come at an angle, like that. It may look like I'm going straight down, but I'm actually going at an angle. Okay, that looks like it's right in the center. That's good. Excellent. All right, so let's go ahead and round that out. And, you know, nothing says exactly where this needs to be, so whenever you're comfortable with it, just put it up right there. Well, one side is higher than the other, so let's just take it down. You can tell on the back we had a little bit more material on this side, and that's fine. So that end grain can be a little tricky to cut, but anyway. I can tell you this is a lot of fun to cut on the 1-inch block. There is hardly anything there to cut, so I would cut very gently and very carefully when you do that part. It's very easy to take off way too much. Okay, so now I'm just shaping this ball to make it a little bit more round. Then I'm going to cut him in with my V-tool and shape that up and give it the ridges. Okay, I'm gonna take off these corners because the round ball and the square head rag don't necessarily line up too well. I think I'm going to make these guys a little bit more pronounced. Section right here. Okay, and then round this out a little bit. Alright, and that ball is looking okay. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Let's clean up a couple sections over here. Right here. And so to give the final cleanup over here, I usually use my sanding block. And I'll give it a once over to kind of smooth out any rough edges and get rid of any of those black marks that you see on there. So my gloves tend to shed a lot. But a little bit of sanding with that sponge block gets rid of all that stuff. Alright, excellent. Now with a pencil, just going to mark those lines where I want them. Do about 5 lines total. Make sure these two look symmetrical, and the ones on the side you can't really see from when you're looking at the front. So, okay, just regular V-tool, not too deep. Okay, like that. Look at that. That looks pretty good. So I think this is one of the earlier versions of the stencil that I had, which was a lot smaller, and you can tell that this robe part is a lot more, it's a lot larger here. So I changed it up. Anyway, they're not the same. This is the one that is the new stencil. Look at that guy. And of course, big guy. So let me show you how to finish this guy up. So on the back I still have the rough cuts from when I resawed it on the bandsaw. So all I do is I take a number 7 gouge, and this is about 3/8 of an inch, and all I do is just gouge up the entire back like that. This is a pretty nice grain on here, but sometimes you have a little bit of tear out if you go one way or the other. Doesn't matter too much, either take lighter cuts or change the direction that you're going. It also looks kind of nice if you angle the cuts and don't keep them, don't make them robotic, meaning don't go completely straight to the left. And you're gonna have a hard time making them perfectly straight anyway, so my suggestion is don't worry about it. It's gonna turn out the way it turns out. But yeah, you don't want them to look exactly the same. But I have not had that be a problem, even when I wasn't thinking about it. And when you get about halfway, just turn the piece over. And of course you could always sand it, you know, if you wanted to, but in some cases, you see the grain is doing some funny stuff here now. So I'm going to keep on going as long as I can in this direction. You know, I think this gives it more of a rustic look, you know, rustic feel, so that when somebody picks it up, they feel the texture on the back, and it's not just perfectly flat. It's almost like flooring, you know. buy flooring that has the texture on it to kind of give us a sense that it was processed by some human. It had a human touch to it. So, yeah. But not too much. You don't want it to be super jagged. So, of course, you take the sanding block and just give it a once over. Just be careful on these, on the sides right here. There's not much material there because the shoulders kind of come out right there. In the center, go crazy. You can hog out as much material as you want. It's up to you. I tend to take out light shavings as much as possible. Except for right there. I really don't want to hold it upside down because I know that it's just going to tear out like it did right there. So I gotta do this funny finger holding. And this is where one of those carving blocks really comes handy. So you can brace your work down into it. But anyway, not a big deal. Just kind of awkward to hold it like this between your index finger and your middle finger. Okay, that looks pretty good. Very little tear out. Awesome. Okay. Now the last step is I use one of these guys. This is just a little foam sanding block. And you can see all those original processing marks on there and the pencil lines. This guy just much smoother, and so you can continue to do that until you're happy with the way those guys are coming out, and then you can smooth out any of the rough edges. Be careful not to go overboard. This is a very fine grit, and if you have a lower grit or a coarser grit, you may get rid of some of the little detail that you've put into this. So don't go crazy. And if you still have some pencil lines in there and it seems like you've been sanding for too much, just go back with a knife and take care of those parts. But anyway, that looks pretty good. Cool. Alright, and then for the back, I just give it a couple passes on there. Alright. Excellent. There we have it, guys. There is Balthazar with this stencil. So, hope you guys enjoyed. It was a lot of fun to carve this guy, super easy. I hope you guys make many and many more of these guys. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Bye.